Well, he's such a familiar face and such a familiar name for all of us who love and watch the NRL. Greg Alexander, welcome back, mate.
Oh, thank you. Good to chat.
So much to talk about. Let's waste no time. Brad Arthur to start with. Are you surprised?
Probably not after the performance they gave up at Magic Ground the second half, where I think Melbourne ran in 6 tries. It was pretty close at half time. They got themselves back into the game just on the break. But after a couple of their performances, the fact they didn't make finals last year after playing the grand final in 2022, I wasn't completely surprised when the news came out.
Well, we've had Demetrio gone and him gone now. Is it going to become a bit like the Premier League? Is it actually going to be like just, coaches last one season, maybe 2 seasons, and that's it from here on in?
No, I don't think so. I think new coaches coming in, it's unusual for them to only last a year. The fact that he'd been there 10 years, and I think he was, when he spoke last night on NRL 360, and I think he was, sort of philosophical about it. He said, well, I've had 10 years. This was my 11th. I can understand moving on. The results just weren't there. The coaches that were under pressure the most coming into the 24 season were Jason Demetrio, was Brad Arthur, and also Todd Payton, because all sides had failed in 2023 after having very good 2022. So there was pressure on those coaches. Todd Payton got a win on the weekend, and that broke a 5-game losing streak. So the pressure remains on Todd. Demetrio, we know, is gone, and now Brad Arthur.
In terms of Wayne Bennett, he's going to be 77 when that contract ends. Is he just a one out of the box, Greg? Is he just a very special case? Because how many other men can be doing that job at that age for a start? And the second part to that question is still being able to relate to the players, still being able to inspire the players, still being able to impact the game.
He's one out of the box. I think that's right. I don't know. Craig Bellamy is sitting at, was he 63, Craig, around that mark, and we thought this was going to be his last year. He's decided to go again. I don't know how long he'll be going for, though. And he has extended, year by year over the last few. So, he mightn't have a lot of time left in the game, and that's 63. So, and he comes. I guess Tim Sheen's rivaled Wayne Bennett. Tim was coaching last year at 72. But he was a pretty unique individual as well. Tim Sheen's great innovator, been in the game a long time. They're coaching first grade in terms of NRL longer than Wayne Bennett. Wayne came in 87 with the Raiders. Tim was up and running in 84. So we've had a couple of special ones, but Wayne's remarkable, and it's not his football knowledge of what happens on the field. It's his ability to deal with the men. Young men, the family men, the single man. It's his man management that's the key to his longevity, for sure.
How long has Benji Marshall got sitting there with the way that they're playing as well? Has he got at least another year, do you think?
I think he has. Yeah, I think so. And he's probably got another year after that. Benji signed a 5-year deal. I think they'll give him some time. They've got some new players coming to the club next year. Jerome Luai, Sunir Taruva. You're just stealing a couple of more Panthers. Appy Coruscant's there. So the stronger Benji, builds this team into, I guess, the more pressure on Benji to get the results. But I would say Benji, unless it's a complete fail, continuing on from this year, where they've only had 2 wins, if next year's the same, there'd be an awful lot of pressure on him in year 3 to deliver, or he might find his way out the door, like so many Tigers coaches have over the time. It's a tough gig to take on, and especially when you've had no experience as a coach. So Benji is learning on the run as well. And you listen to 10-year coaches. I've heard Brad Arthur talk about his coaching last night, and he said, well, I'm still learning. I learned this year things that I were new to my coaching and I thought might make a difference. But so you're always learning as a coach. But Benji started at right down the bottom level and has got a lot of work to do.
Greg Alexander with us. He played 265 NRL first grade games, Panthers, Warriors, 6 Origins and 6 for Australia. We now see him happily on NRL 360 and calling the games every weekend. I want to get on, obviously, to the Panthers, the Warriors, all of that in a couple of minutes. It's almost halfway stage now of this year's comp, mate. Who is the best team? And is it the team that's sitting there at the top of the table right now?
Well, I guess the fact that they've won so many games, they sit alone on top of the competition in what is a very tight one. The Sharks had some question marks. They have had a pretty good run in terms of the draw, and seems to have happened for the Sharks over the last couple of years, where we continually talk about the draw and whether it's their inability to beat top 8 sides or whether they don't play top 8 sides very often. But they came into their last couple of weeks with a few question marks still hanging over them because of the opposition that they'd played. So they had the Melbourne Storm, the Roosters, the Panthers, the Eels, the Broncos. That's their 5 games. So far, they're 2 games through that tough stretch, and the toughest stretch they'll have this year. They've won both games. They beat Melbourne extraordinarily in Melbourne without Nicho Hynes. I gave them little chance. I didn't think they could win down there with Nicho Hynes. So when he was withdrawn, anyone that was tipping a Sharks win or a Sharks upset, I guess they wanted to get off them, because you just wouldn't think, with how Nicho's played this year and the influence he has on the side, that they were able to get a win. Now that they got a lot of confidence out of that, and that brought them into the game against the Roosters in Magic Round with a fair bit of belief. They got that done too. So in a high-scoring game, and what was a cracking game, the Sharks scored the first try and led, and at one stage led by 8 points, and ended up winning by that margin. So I think they've answered a fair few of the questions that a lot of people had on them. That tough run will continue, where they'll play Penrith this Saturday at 5:30. As I said, the Eels and the Broncos follow. I guess at the moment, yes, they're the best team in the competition, and everyone's starting to think, well, maybe this could be the Sharks' year. Maybe they can handle the big end of town when it gets down to it at the end of the year.
I asked you that question because, when you look at the points table, and it is pretty well crunched up there, and last year we saw the Panthers and the Broncos, especially Greg when it came to the final series, were demonstrably better than every other side. I mean, Melbourne got put away by 30 points as well, right? Let's not forget that. Is it the same this year? Can you see 2 teams or 3 teams that you think, yes, these teams are absolutely better than everyone else? Because the points table isn't telling us that.
No, I don't think it'll be like last year, and I've been sort of hinting at that for most of the year, and it didn't take Einstein to work out the fact that Penrith had lost a couple of their key players.
Yes.